Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, Episode 5 through 8. I know that we're talking about Power Rangers of the past, but it seems that also we'd come to find, as I'd been looking my way into YouTube, that it sounds like Disney is probably going to be canceling their current project of Power Rangers. Seriously? Man, Disney would go on to put a lot of effort into a whole universe of the MCU that really people don't really want anymore. But somehow, Power Rangers is become Disney's new Blade. That Disney can't somehow figure out what to do with it. A show that has a really easy formula and rinses repeats ideas, and when looking at these episodes doesn't feel like it's properly edited, or at some points just has a mixed bag of good and bad. But at the end of the day, let's go out of our way to talk about these episodes, shall we, instead of just being really just so frustrated with why isn't there a current product of this? I'm seriously at this point going to have to just wait for there to be a toy line of these YouTube fan-made projects. Is Power Rangers Sierra Force going to have a toy line sometime soon? Come on, guys, get something drumming up together. Can't wait. Man, if Hyperforce would have been smart about it, they would have gone on and really had their own toy line. But they didn't. Ah, what a mistake that was. They did have a comic book, though. That's good enough, right? Good enough. Anyways, so... memories. So, we go on into these episodes, and first off, we'd come to find that in episode 5, the title is to be dubbed Different Drum. Let me get this straight. So, the monster that is to be in this episode has an accordion. I only know that because, man, the sound that it makes, wow, that's some real greatest hits there. Man, I can't wait for the Power Rangers Turbo episode where it's like confusion, because at least that song was catchy. This thing, I don't want to catch anything that it's that it's dropping down. Frickin' hearing this is like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah, no. I would rather not. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world for 20 minutes? No, you don't. So, going into this episode so far, this has got to be the worst episode so far of this season. We'll see who is to go on and try to figure out a way to beat this one out. But without a doubt, we're going to have Kimberly, who is to be this aerobic instructor. And she is to go on and teach this class how to dance. But if anything, we have one person that seems to be a little bit uncoordinated, because Pilot episode will tell us so, called Billy. So Billy's going on and just to be viciously be dancing it out, as well as Ernie is to be trying to be dancing it out. And eventually Billy will create a storm of chaos that eventually will have him realize that he's not going to go on and find the best ways of getting girls. But by the end of the episode, we'll come to find that Billy becomes a ladies' man after all. He may not be screaming Willie in this episode, but he will be screaming it later. Willie! Ah, Willie! Yeah. So, and I'm going to be a complete child about it because, of course, I am. So, we'd go on into episode 5, and we also find a girl named Melissa who it seems to be hearing impaired, and she's struggling with getting the timing right or getting cues, and eventually she bumps into somebody, which has her then run off to the side and be just frustrated by the fact that her difficulty was to weaken her here, but then she'll find out that it'll strengthen her later, and she'll become the real hero of this episode, Melissa will. And we'll come to find that out as Rita is will also decide to want to get into the musical game of realizing that Bulk and Zach had gone on to do their dance off. It's like, man, everybody is just so into music lately that I might as well go on and turn to Finster and have him summon a Pied Piper music to snare people ability. And Finster will come up with a gnarly gnome. Weirdly, a monster that goes on and becomes invisible or turns into a skyscraper or rock for some reason, but at least it's not as bad as Scorpina that goes on and is to be rolling in with a rock scorpion. Why? Also, why have that character appear to then not figure out a way to keep having her in the show? They bring her back just to kill her off. It's ridiculous. She dates Adam and then she disappears. But anyways, let's not focus too much on the misgivings of certain things in the future. Let's talk about this episode. So we come to find that Melissa with a group of girls make their way out of the youth center to all of a sudden have the gnarly gnome be around that area, just being like, yeah, I have to go and I have to hypnotize the Power Rangers. I have to hypnotize the Power Rangers. I have to. Hey, there's a group of girls over there. Hey, wait, what was I supposed to do? Oh, I'll hypnotize these girls. All right, yeah. I know how easily distracted going on and seeing a group of women could easily be, so I understand, gnarly gnome, I understand. So we'd go and have the gnarly gnome that starts to hypnotize these girls, takes them back to his cave and have them dance around him, and he goes on and eats and drinks and is to just kind of doze off and fall asleep. And then to have Rita be like, I'm sorry, like, did you miss the plot of the show? Did you go on and did you completely forget the toy line that we have to sell here? Oh, the toy line? Yeah, oh, okay, my bad. I completely forgot. So we go on and we find that Melissa is to be following the girls to this cave that has an angel next to it for some odd reason. I don't know why. That's to be the one thing that kind of really just messes with my brain in this episode. The angel that's to be by the cave, not anything else. Not the drum accordion. What the is that? What? No, the angel that's on the cave. Why is there one? Shouldn't there have been two? Whatever. So I'm getting a little bit distracted, viciously and deliciously here. So also, I just dropped my phone. I'm having a number of problems here. So minimize klutz. So we'd go on to this episode to have Melissa, who is to realize that her friends are in danger, and so she decides to do the right thing instead of just being like, well, my friends are screwed, I'm gonna go on and I'm just gonna go on home, because you know what, like, I have better things to do. Like, if anything, the one girl tried to treat me kind of poorly, so I might as well just be like, later. No, Melissa goes on and does the right thing and makes her way to the youth center, where she goes on and speaks to Jason, because hero knows hero in this bit of storytelling here. So Melissa goes on and tries to explain to Jason about her friends being in trouble. And so Jason is like, okay, let's go on and let's get my group together. We'll go to the cave together, Melissa, you and I, and my group of friends. And we'll then go on and have Melissa go on and hide off to the side while the Rangers go on and morph and face off against the gnarly gnome and take it out. Strangely enough, we don't have the gnarly gnome really go on and use much of its musical threat, but again, it'll turn into a skyscraper or a rock and do nothing with that either. So within the episode, we go on to have Melissa, who's a hero in the end. She goes on to prove that Billy can get girls in this episode and dances with Billy, and then all of a sudden Billy goes on to an uncoordinated guy, to all of a sudden popping and locking and doing all these weird goofy dance moves, which were like, Billy! Billy's gonna make me scream Willie. Anyways, so now we go on into episode 6 called Food Fight. So Food Fight is to be the standout episode, I feel, of this season. Besides maybe some Green Ranger stuff and maybe a character down the road that's be Tommy Oliver, yeah, whatever that nonsense is. We'll get to that. You know, it'll just be a thing that occurs in the show. It'll be a thing. Whatever. But anything, Food Fight. So we'd come to find that the Rangers are trying to get some fundraising going, and so they put this cultural food festival thing together. And while going on and having this food festival, we'd come to find that there is a lot of cultures, and if anybody's going to go on and complain about the whole, like, certain race of people that are be under certain colors, really look at this episode and just be like, okay, African, American, Asian, what's going on here? But anyways, so at this food festival, we come to find that Bulk, ever the bully, wants to go on and realize that, hey, there's food here. We might as well realize that there's also pie. We might as well justifiably throw pies at people because we want to go on and have this pie to be thrown at the principal. The pie goes on and obviously goes on and misses the principal, which causes this chain reaction of Food Fight. And the principal goes on and realizes that this food festival has been ruined, that there's no way for them to go on and be able to get the money required, possibly for the daycare. And the principal storms off. So the Rangers go on and find out there is a monster called Pudgy Pig that is be running amok upon the town, because if Rangers are really going on and having a hankering to make a lot of food, then Rita is going to go on and figure out a way of having a monster with a food craving. So Rita is to go on and bring in the Pudgy Pig, which, man, is this an iconic monster for the show. But also, this starts a staple within the show that has a monster eating things. Whether it is to go on and have the monster go on and eat food, eat weapons, eat Power Rangers, to where even there is to be Power Ranger stuck inside monsters' stomachs at some certain points to fight with inside of it. or any number of just rung of things. Like, that just ends up happening within this show, which makes for a bit of interesting episodes, but also it is to go on and just be like, man, are they going to come up with some really different ideas at some point in the show? But no, it's always just really fun to see this kind of idea to be used. So, food fight goes on and has the Pudgy Pig be supposedly eating the Earth's food supply within 48 hours. Because I guess the Pudgy Pig is eating for 5. So, the Pudgy Pig is eating in bulk. He's surplusing the world. And so the Rangers are to go on and realize that not only is there a food festival to be ruined by a food fight, but then when Pudgy Pig comes in and completely wipes them all out, Trini is to be the one that goes on and spots that the Pudgy Pig will go on and won't just eat anything. That it seems that the Pudgy Pig is to have a weakness. And that weakness is to be the hot stuff. So, Pudgy Pig should go on and be on an episode of the Hot Ones, or... Come on, Pudgy Pig! Like, build up a tolerance. Just have some ice cream, you'll be okay. So... Come on, like, really... Anyway, so... Pudgy Pig eventually faces off against the Power Rangers again. But this time around, they are to be coming with food instead of weapons. Because once they were to go on to face off against the Pudgy Pig with weapons, the Pudgy Pig devours them all. So, the Power Rangers switch up a strategy, and they come up with a deep dish full of victory. And they then turn around and get their weapons back to then go on and do the Mega Blaster and try to go on and take the Pudgy Pig out. So, and not to eat. We'll come to find that eventually Pudgy Pig will be brought back at some point. And I'm like, yeah, he'll be brought back, but in a really crappy way. Man, does that suck. So, but if anything, we can go on and reflect about how fun this episode is and realize that it is a fun standout episode. So, now we get into episode 7, which is Big Sisters. We come to find that Trini and Kimberly are looking around the youth center for a girl, and come to find out that this girl is to be somewhat of a prankster. Goes on and turns off all the hot water in the youth center to have all the people coming out of the showers and be like, hey, what the heck went on? What's going on? Somebody turned off the hot water. So Kimberly and Trini go on and talk to Maria about, like, well, hey, yeah, like, why did you do that to those people? And so Trini and Kimberly go on and forget all that. It's like, well, hey, how about we just go out for a picnic? So we would go on to also have Rita. Rita is wanting to go on and seek out these power eggs, because we really just have a certain theme going on in this episode. Plus, also, guys, we're going to go on and have the origins of the Master Morphers, or Master Morphin Masters. Maybe we'll get a Master Morpher at some point, but it won't be today. Man, if only we could have had a Master Morpher so early in this show, a lot of things would really be ending quite quickly. Morphin Masters. So, something that'll pay off years later in Cosmic Fury. Here's the origin of it right here in the show. So, we'd have the Morphin Masters who would go on and to have tried to bring these power eggs to Earth and hope to try to conceal it from evil by having only a child being able to open this said chest that they're in. And we come to find that Rita is to now need a child to open up this chest to get these eggs out. So we would go and have Rita make a monster that specifically is to try to obtain children. And so Rita goes to Fencer. It's like, hey, what do you got for me this time? And Fencer goes on and concocts the chunky chicken. Which, again, the main goal of this monster is to kidnap and steal this child. So, what are we doing this episode? While both Kimberly and Trini are at this picnic, and Trini and Kimberly are talking to Maria about, hey, yeah, do you have any red boys in your class? And Maria's like, oh no, like, they're all gross. And Kimberly's like, well, yeah, she'll learn. Man, whenever are we gonna get Tommy in the show? Maybe Kimberly will learn. So, but just wait till we get to that relationship where they'll just end up being like supposed friends, or Tommy will really be putting the work in, but Kimberly will be going on and Dear Johning him. It will frickin' just tear your heart out. It really will. But anyways, so Trini and Kimberly are dealing with Maria and just being a disconnect of just time period of womanhood. And all of a sudden, we'd come to find putties going on and attacking Kimberly and Trini. So, we'd come to find that Kimberly and Trini are to lose Maria while fighting putties, but we'll find out in Eye Guy that when the group of kids are to be with Willie, that they'll go on and they'll circle around him, and also Willie weirdly, Jason will go on and have this like weird counting out of punches and kicks and whatever, and I'm like, shouldn't the putties be overhearing this? Hey guys, get into formation. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, shouldn't the putties be figuring out this pattern? I guess not. But anyways, so, but yeah, so they'll course correct the mistake that they are to go on and obviously make within this episode. And also, within the Eye Guy episode and this, there'll be a pattern of stealing children. Are you doing okay, show? You feeling okay? The show really likes to kidnap children. Strange. Whoa. Bad. Whoa. Anyways, so yeah, and we'll be debuting the Rad Bug here, and that's where the woe comes in from. But also, will be on top of that, be doing the whole roller coaster thing with the hollow game, and we get the whole roller coaster thing, and where it's like, whoa, yeah, whoa, and then Kimberly is like, oh, get me off this ride, because maybe she gets motion sickness. So we'd come to find that the chunky chicken uh, will inevitably go on to have Maria go on and be dangling from this rope. And oddly enough, Power Rangers strategize to take into battle their Megazord. Strange. As if they perfectly knew going into this battle what exactly they needed. Which doesn't make any sense at all, but it is what it is. So, I'm also kind of curious how much of the show like had to match with like the Sentai footage. Cause yeah, they go on in the Eye Guy episode and they talk about the whole planet, and it has like the girl with the bat. It's funny. Uh like they say, yeah, we went to this other planet, and it looks like Sentai footage. Man, if another planet looks so much like Japan. Anyways. So Maria goes on and ends up getting rescued by the Power Rangers because the Megazord ends up catching her, and eventually she'll be brought in by the or remotely brought in by the Red Bug that doesn't seem at all like there's a driver within it in one scene. Like we see like a head kind of moving in the background, and then the rest of the time we don't see anybody driving it after that. But still, so also within this episode, we get a long amount of times of them just driving the Rad Bug as like they go on and they say like, "Hey, why don't we just fly? How about we just figure out a way to get there faster so we don't have to use all this footage of us just driving somewhere? Like this isn't going to be a cool part of the episode." And everybody's like, "No, no, it's going to be really cool. We're going to just be driving even more. We just have to convince people of what we're doing." We just have to be just saying more. Just that we can go on and just eat up more time in this episode because who cares, right? We sold enough of this, the toy line of the show. We're making millions. Anyways, I'm just recycled footage. Are you kidding me? If only someone would figure this out in modern time how to do the same shit. Anyways, so we'd go on to have, of course, the Power Rangers go on and take out yet another monster, and there has to be this whole news coverage that goes on and showcases Maria, that goes on and says, yeah, now since I've gone, I've been rescued by the Power Rangers, I'm the most popular kid in school. Good for her. Like, I guess it does make sense that she's to go on and be very popular now. Because, yeah, she had gone on and interacted with the Power Rangers. So now we get into I Guy. Or I Guy. And man, I really am to say that I really like the cosmetic visual of I Guy. He is so cool looking. I like the fact that you end up having a monster that can destroy itself and then come back together. But that does happen later on in a story arc of Megazord, and oh my god, that is just layers of just awful, where we'd go on to have the Rangers that are just be endlessly just being like, hey man, yeah, let's Megazord it up and let's take this thing out. And then the monster just kind of recollects itself, and then the Rangers are just like, okay, well, let's just do the same thing that we just did before, and they don't really like regroup. They don't go on and come up with a different strategy. It's just like, no, like, let's just keep doing this until it breaks. Stupid. Um, to where it's like, man, like, once you go on and get like the Power Rangers just off the rhythm, they're just a broken record. They're just like, they're just gonna do the same things over and over and over again until they die, because they can't come up with anything else. And so within I Guy, we find that a character named Willie that we need to save at all costs. So Willie, we'd come to find, is to be with Billy, showcasing off this holo game, this VR bit of roller coaster ride. And Lily's going to be sent off to this junior science fair, which oddly we come to find within the science fair, as Willie and Billy make it there, that all of a sudden Bulk is to go on and do his normal bully routine, and all of a sudden this judge of this junior science fair is to go on and disqualify Willie for something he didn't even do. But I think he ends up getting bribed by the show later. Just like, well, yeah, Willie, I guess I really wasn't paying attention before, and I just immediately thought that you were the one that was going on and causing a fight in this junior science fair, which you weren't at all. So I'm going to go on and just say that, well, like, I'm not only going to go on and say that your thing is to be a part of this junior science fair, but you're going to get the first prize. Because of course you do. So, but Willie is to go on and just be so upset in the early parts of this episode that his holo game was to be disqualified, that he runs off and drops his lucky hat or lucky cap, whatever, it's a hat, cap, fart, I don't know. Anyways, so Willie storms off. He gets vicious, this Willie, with storming off, and the rest of the Rangers storm off after him, and we come to find that Guy goes on and steals Willie and puts him in this weird gyroscope, what is it, the weird goofy circular thing that they use in NASA to go on and train people to like spin around in a no gravity like area, so they can get used to kind of going on and kind of being able to kind of move all over the place. I know that there's an exact maybe thing that this thing was called, but I think I have it more in my notes. Anyway, so we'd come to find that the Rangers in this episode have to actually strategize, because the Power Rangers can go on and kick and punch and blast their way through Guy, but here's where they have to go on and find out that this monster really does have a weakness and where to really strike more at, because Guy not only has all of his other eyes, but he also has one main one. And so the Rangers have to go on and figure out how to attack at that main one to then go on and get to the rest of him. And once they go on and once they achieve that, they go on and they beat it, which is to be a really just more interesting episode to me. And also have them figure out a way to get Billy from outside of this monster because, again, we have to have another monster that kidnaps children. Uh, just a consistent pattern going on. I get that you could probably go on and say that, well, yeah, like the target audience of this show is a certain kind of person, but still, it doesn't matter. It's just like they're just, again, going out of the same pattern of kidnapping children. Again, show, are you okay? Something wrong? Who hurt you, show? Who hurt you? Man, does this show want to go on and be the weird van in the dark alley? Hey, what's Power Rangers? I'll give you a lollipop and put you in my van. It'll be okay. Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of what happens throughout a good chunk of these episodes. Yeah, so honestly, throughout 8 episodes now, I have to go and I honestly have to say, still, like, Pressing Engagement was to be the standout episode of the last bit of those. Because everything else was just kind of like this formulaic, like, get to know who the Power Rangers are and all their bells and whistles. And then Pressing Engagement, it's like, okay, this actually feels like an episode of Power Rangers. To where now we have, like, Food Fight and Eye Guy that are go on and bring in strategy that I can go on and find this show a lot more entertaining and a lot more fun, and brings in also like the Pudgy Pig staple of like, oh man, a monster that eats things and eats people and everything in between. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, with that said, so far out of 8 episodes, Food Fight, Eye Guy, and Pressing Engagement are to be key ones, which I probably have gone on and said this in the past, but if anything, it's still true. But if anything, different drum is in the running of the worst episode right now. The worst episode. And also, I think we now have to go on and figure out who is the best side character of this show. So, a lot of people will probably go on and maybe say that Bulk and Skull may be the best side characters. But I'm going with like people who are to be much more rarely used, meaning side character. Like, the more kind of like one-off or story arc kind of characters, not the regulars that come in, day out. So, if I'm to go on and say my favorite side character, would probably end up being none other than, so far, Willie. Just the number of screaming alone of Willie was to be like, this is a really good side character. So, with that said, let's go on and let's go into more nitty-gritty details of every single one of these episodes, because I think it's about that time to break this all down. Let me know in the comments below your favorite episodes so far, or let me know in the comments below your favorite Ranger, worst Ranger, best Ranger. Let me know all the nitty-gritty details of how you felt about when hearing that Disney is probably canceling on Power Rangers, and we may never get a current product Power Ranger coming anytime soon. Because at this point, at least we can just say that uh, we had good times with this product. We had something special. Anyways, and it's all been ruined. Anyway, so let's get into the nitty gritty beginning of the song because I think it's about that time to go into different drum. So, spoilers, everybody, getting the nitty gritty details. So, as I'm to go on and make my way to the youth center, Kimberly is to be teaching this dance class where we have a number of like step up items for these characters to go on and use these kind of block like items to kind of go on and step up and down on. So Ernie goes on and he has this he brings in this cart with him. And all of a sudden, Ernie's getting the taste of the music here, and he's just dancing it out. He just can't help himself, which is great. Get down with your bad self, Ernie. Go ahead. You deserve it. So, you've earned it. So, all of a sudden, we'd have Billy, who really is to go on and be a man out of rhythm. And if anything, though, I'm sure he's a great lover. But rhythm maybe not exactly his forte at some point of fighting and dancing, and we'll figure out the rest. So Billy is to accidentally trip and go flying into this cart, and then he starts creating havoc all over the youth center. And then eventually he falls back on stage. Kimberly goes on and tells Billy, I'm going to give you a little bit of a secret, Billy. This isn't the right way to meet girls. So now we cut to the Moon Palace, and it seems that Rita has realized that everybody is really hip to music right now. So if anything, Rita is going to go on and realize that should be the monster for this week. So Billy goes on and makes his way back to Trini as he moans and groans because of the plowing that he did on that stage. So they go on and ask Billy what's wrong, and Billy goes on in a very technical term of things. Basically has Trini translate that he can't dance. Oh, okay, all right. So all of a sudden, here's where ends up coming in. We have both Bulk and Skull making their way to eventually start to look in on the aerobics dance, and eventually they dance their way to both Jason and Zach here. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but we'll get to the rest of what happened earlier a little bit later here. I just want to focus on this. So as Bulk is to go on and pretend to do some ballet here and trip up Jason, here's where Zach and Bulk get into a dance-off. And the weird thing of it, like, I thought that Bulk was supposed to, like, copy Zach, but Bulk just kind of does his own thing, which is like, oh, okay. So Zach goes on and he starts it off, and then Bulk goes on and does his thing, and then they just keep ramping it up to where Zach is doing things that he knows that Bulk can't do. It gets to the point where Zach does like this headstand over this counter, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way that I, as even a human being, could even do something like that. But it's amazing that Walter Jones can. So that's great. So Bolt goes on, he goes flying over the counter, and I think Jason Narvey was to go on and say something about that part of the episode needing to go on and have the show like planned for like a crash pad because they didn't have that planned originally in the show. So evidently Jason Narvey would go on and from time to time like plan stuff out for the show to have like stuff kind of prepared for them because the show didn't think about it. Really, show? Great. So now let's cut back a little. So we'd come to find that Kimberly is going on and teaching this aerobics class, and all of a sudden, Kimberly realizes that there's some chaos going on, and it's not Billy this time. Then instead, that Beth is to be upset that Melissa knocked into her, and Melissa runs off. Kimberly goes on and is to speak to Melissa, like, hey, what happened? And Melissa is to be like, well, like, yeah, like, I'd gone on and kind of misread things, and I bumped into somebody, and Kimberly was like, well, yeah, well, I didn't go on and give you the cues. So Kimberly goes on and tells Melissa that she's a good dancer, and then the two of them look at Billy. It's like, yeah, not everyone has that strength. So now we cut back to Rita making her way to Finster and wanting some kind of Pied Piper monster. And so Finster comes up with a brilliant idea of Gnarly Gnome. And so Fencer goes on and makes this monster into the Monster Manic, and we would have assumed that the monster would go on and pop from the normal way of it going down to the Monster Manic, and smoke appears, and then the Gnarly Gnome just like, hey, look at me. No, all of a sudden the Gnarly Gnome just comes flying out of just the air, just randomly somewhere. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So the Gnarly Gnome makes his way to the youth center and waits. So Melissa is talking to one of the girls about this big sale, and so they all make their way outside. The Gnarly Gnome goes on and plays the accordion and is to hypnotize all these women. And so the Gnarly Gnome goes to the cave with these women, and all of a sudden, like, there's a bunch of putties that are all there. I'm like, okay, what are the putties there for? It's just women. Are the putties also just like, hey man, I want to get out of this too? There's a bunch of women here. Even the putties just get distracted by women. It's, man, just the weakness of villainy these days. So we'd go on to have the Gnarly Gnome that is to consistently tell this group of women, like, follow me, like, and keeps going on and talking about Rita. And so Melissa goes on to follow this group of women to then find that there's this net appears, and so she's like, well, okay, I'll just go back to the youth center and go on and find Jason. And so Melissa starts to go on and does sign language, and Jason can't quite like figure out what she's saying. Turns to Ernie, it's like, hey, do you know sign language? And Ernie's like, no, I don't know sign language. So Melissa goes on and starts writing a note down on a piece of paper, and so Jason starts reading. It's like, oh, my she's saying that her friends are in danger. Okay, let's take Melissa and be like, hey, where are your friends? Let's go there. So we'd go on to have the gnarly gnome that is having all these girls dance around him, and they're all dancing in weird circles. And Babu and Squad are going on and just making all this food. At some point, Squad is going like, "Yeah, I'm got hunger too. I'll go on and I'll eat this bug that he specially gift wrapped." He has this like Christmas present. He goes on and unravels it, like, "Oh yeah, it's just this huge slug of a thing." Yeah, yeah, whatever. So Rita goes on and looks through the telescope, and Rita, of course, is getting upset by how, of course, the gnarly gnome is to not go on and hypnotize the Rangers, but instead he's hypnotizing a group of women. So, Rita goes on is to get gnarly gnome back on track to be like, hey, like, don't you remember what the plot of this whole show was? Power Rangers, right? Go after them. So Gnarly Gnome goes on and is to completely fall asleep, miss the plot, doesn't even have his shoes tied, turns invisible for some odd reason. I don't know why. So Babu is in a chef's hat, whatever. So now we get back to the plot. So the Rangers and Melissa are all going on and making their way to this cave. And so as Melissa to go on and tell the Rangers here that haven't morphed yet, that the group of girls were all in this cave, and so the Rangers are like, okay, Melissa, you go on, you hide out, and we'll take care of this. The Rangers, after Melissa is to go and leave, they all morph. So the Rangers all have their weapons out and they're attacking the gnarly knoll. And here's the weird goofy thing here that I didn't mention because I forgot about it. So we'd come to find the weapons within Power Rangers are to have a completely different set of names when they first come out, and then after that, they do the names that we well know them for. Like, the battle axe is to be the cosmic cannon here, and it does make sense. And then all the way down the line, all the other weapons besides Jason's power sword are all different here. But then later on, the episode right after that, we then get to the power lance and power bow and all these things that were kind of very known for them being called. But this run, completely something different. So yeah, they must have thought one thing one week and like, you know what, those names kind of really sucked. Let's go on, let's correct them now. That's the problem with the streaming week, or that's the problem with a week to week episode that things just get changed. So they go on and they combine the weapons together to the Mega Blaster, or the Mega the Mega Blaster, I believe is what it was called. So they go on a blast and they almost make us believe that this monster is going to be so easily taken out here, and then all of a sudden Rita throws her wand and the monster ends up becoming giant. The Rangers all call for the Megazord. The Megazord all forms from the cannon mode to then the battle mode. So first off, we have the gnarly gnome that all of a sudden has this pitchfork. Where does a pitchfork come from? Well, I guess Gnarly Gnome is to be known for being like a garden gnome or whatever, but like the pitchfork thing just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like I would have thought they would have had more of like an instrument or something, but I guess not. So eventually the accordion comes back into play here, but still. Um, so we'd go on to have the gnarly gnome that tries to attack the Megazord with a pitchfork that does nothing. Uh, the Megazord kind of bats it away, and then the gnarly gnome goes on and tries to use the accordion, and then turns from a skyscraper to a rock, and tries to ram attack the Megazord, and the Megazord just goes on and punches it and hits it back. Then, of course, we have Jason that calls for the Mega Sword. Let's count it out. Mega Sword in this one. So they whip out the Megazord, goes on and takes out the gnarly gnome yet again, like always. So then we come to find that the Rangers all have to go on and focus back on the girls in the cave and to try to free them and get them back on home. So we'd go on to have all the Rangers unmorphed, make their way out of the cave, and have the Rangers go on to explain that Melissa was to have gone on and saved them. To, of course, the girls go on and they think Melissa, and Melissa's to be the big hero here. We turn and have Rita, who is going on and complaining to her lackeys about them all being fools and all this this stuff here. We go on and we have Rita that goes on and calls Squad an overgrown blueberry, which I think Beauty Baba Yaga had recently gone on and talked about at some point in her episodes and thought it was funny. But anyway, well, it is also really true. Like, Squad does really look like an overgrown blueberry anyways. You're turning violet, Violet! Anyways, so so we now cut to having Ernie start the pattern of having stuff on the house. And then later on, we'll come to find Ernie will be having financial troubles, and I wonder why. Ernie goes on and has sodas on the house. Isn't this a juice bar? Doesn't he go and have like juice drinks or whatever? Isn't that his claim to fame? But anyways, then we'll go and we'll have Ernie that has chili on the house. There's a pattern going on here. And then we'll come to find that Ernie will be losing money on the house. So Ernie goes on and hands all the Rangers Melissa soda. And here's where Jason tries to go on and does sign language, but is to, not be so good at it. And Melissa and Kimberly are to make fun of Jason. And then all of a sudden, Melissa is to turn to Billy and be like, hey, you and me, let's do some dancing. So the Rangers all go on and watch both Melissa and Billy start to dance. And so they all talk about how, Melissa's really happening before, but now she really, ever since she's gone on and saved her friends, man, she really on a different level of happening. So here's where we go and we all of a sudden see Billy that is to kind of pushing everybody away, and then he takes the floor and goes on and does this bit of dancing, and then he goes on and just kind of like, so all of a sudden, like, the team goes on and looks at Billy, it's like, wow. And then we cut to the episode ending. So now into food fight. So we go on into food fight, And my mistake. I made a bit of a error there. We'd start off this episode, and so Ernie is making his way to the youth center, and at some point he goes on and says everything is looking really good, or something like that. He goes on and says something like that, but when he says the word looking, I keep hearing the word effing. I don't know if I've said that already, but I kept going back and cutting back and cutting back every time he says it, and to me it sounds like he's saying effing. It's strange to me. So Ernie is going on with a number of plates with pies on them, and as Ernie goes on and makes his way to two hula girls, all of a sudden, when Ernie goes on and says, "Hey, can you give me a hand with something?" Both Bulk and Skull assume that it's the women, and Ernie's like, "No, give me a hand with these plates full of pies." So Bulk and Skull go on and take the plates, and now we have Mr. Kaplan. So here's where Mr. Kaplan goes on and talks with the Rangers, and they explain that they're going to be going on and having this cultural food festival. It's to raise a lot of money for preschool and daycare centers. And we'd immediately have Kaplan that is starting to look at some of the food, and he is tempted by it. But of course, they'd be like, "Oh no, no, no! Like if anything, whatever, whatever you're gonna pay for has to be $20." Cue Billy going on and being the guy that everything is $20. Hey, you dunk your head in a big, uh, huge bucket full of chili or whatever, or whatever that is. $20. Hey, you want this sub sandwich? $20. Man, a sub sandwich is really expensive. You can go on and get a $5 one at Subway for $5. But hey, $20 for a sub? Wow. That's pretty crazy. Anyways, so $5 footlong over at Subway. That food festival is price gouging. Anyways, so Jason is hoping, because they're gonna be busy at this food festival, that Rita isn't gonna be concocting any trouble today. Well, we come to find out at the Moon Palace that Rita is concocting an illness. She's feeling a little bit ill. Maybe it's from all those headaches. Maybe they are to figure out that, like, if she's having some chronal headaches or something, that maybe she should be going to a space doctor or something. You know, like figure out some kind of like spell to figure out how Rita can go on and and be able to stop getting all those headaches. Maybe instead of just taking some aspirin, maybe she has to take something a little bit more serious. Anyways, so Rita's going on and is realizing that she feels terrible. So Babu and Squat have to help her to get her way to the telescope. So Rita goes on and notices on the telescope that the Rangers are all focused on food, and now Rita is feeling even more sick. Maybe she got food poisoning. But either way, we have this food festival all kicking off. So we'd have these hula girls dancing, and so Trini and Billy are at the Asian part of this like food market place, and Zach is going on and taking care of the African corner of this food court, and Jason and Kimberly, it seems, are going in with American cheeseburgers. So if anything, yeah, like I guess we have to have Jason and Kimberly, who's going on and doing the America. Like if anything, like whatever. So as Kaplan starts to make his way through the selection of food, we'd all of a sudden then have us cut to both Bulk and Skull. As both Bulk and Skull go on and they lift the pies up a little bit into the air, all of a sudden Skull goes on and takes a finger full of his pie, and Bulk goes on to explain of it, hey, we're not going to go on and taste these pies, we're going to throw them. So we would go and have Bulk, who turns to somebody and is to put a wager that he can be able to go on and hit the principal, and Bulk goes on, throws his pie, and accidentally hits Skull instead. Skull goes on and shouts the word food fight, and the chaos starts to emerge. All of a sudden, Mr. Kaplan is to lose his wig in this punch bowl, and he goes on and slaps it back onto his head. And so everybody starts getting hit with food. Billy gets hit with some, Zach does, and now we cut to having Rita get the idea that if food is the theme of this episode, that she needs to go on and come up with a monster that can eat it in bulk. So, to get rid of the theme. So, Rita goes on and makes her way, sick as a dog, to Finster, and this time around she goes on and says that she wants a pudgy pig, and Finster is like, well, I do have one, but it's not exactly my best work. So Finster goes on and makes a pudgy pig, puts it into the monster manic, and it appears, and we of course have the monster like, I'm hungry! That's to be his catchphrase. I'm hungry! I'm hungry! Cartman before he was Cartman. So they, in a gulf of flame, go on and teleport Pudgy Pig onto Earth, and immediately he goes on and sees this huge trash bag and notices that there's food in it, and which makes sense. I could immediately have gone on and just recently watched The Day After Tomorrow, where there's a homeless person that says, yeah, like look in the garbage cans, like you go and see food there. So now we cut back to the food festival, and chaos is to still emerge there. Kaplan is to be underneath one of these tables, and all of a sudden, we come to find that Jason is going on and doing some combat cold cuts. If you don't know what the reference of that is the reference of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, where Michelangelo goes on and finds that there is these meat things that he can go on and use as nunchucks, and so he starts going on and using them as nunchucks. And oddly enough, Jason goes on and does the same thing. There's like these strings of like of these like hot dog like things that are kind of strung together, and he uses them as nunchucks. So we'd go on to have eventually Bulk that eventually gets a pie to himself, and so Bulk goes on and is to try to brush off the pie, and as Skull and Kimberly meet, we'd go on to have Skull, who tries to throw this this large kind of bowl of things that eventually just falls onto Bulk. Bulk goes on and throws a pie at Skull, and now we're back with Pudgy Pig. The Pudgy Pig is to go on and find that there is a group of people that are having a picnic. He goes on and crashes the picnic, jumps all over the food and just rolls around in it, and kind of bit of silly fun here. So Trini and Kimberly are noticing that one of Bulk's kind of dreadlocked friends here is to have a pie for both Trini and Kimberly, but eventually dives into a big, massive bowl of chili or something of that nature. And here's where Billy goes on and is to say, hey, yeah, since you just ate out of our massive bowl, $20, please. So, uh, so at some point, Bulk is to have this whipped cream. Zach goes on and is to uh, grab this towel and is to all of a sudden be a bullfighter, with Bulk being the bull, Zach being the bullfighter. So Zach goes on a Toro bull or Bulk, and Bulk goes sliding completely down this table, destroying everything. And here's where Chaplin has had enough. Going on and saying that this food festival is ruined, and then he's ashamed of everybody, and now they have no way of making the preschool or day fair funds. And so at this point, the only thing left to do is to throw a broom at Jason and tell everybody to clean up. All of a sudden, instead of cleaning up, Jason and the Rangers are going to realize that Zordon has called for them, and so they make their way teleporting to the command center. The Rangers all come to find in the command center that they need to make their way to the viewing globe to view that Pudgy Pig is wreaking havoc on a grocery store and gobbling up every bit of real estate it can. So they go on to say that at some point that Pudgy Pig will eat all the food on Earth within 48 hours because this thing just endlessly wants to eat. So we'd have Alpha that is to be wearing a bit of chef's attire, and Alpha is going on and saying that Alpha will be helping out with the food festival, and Alpha will be later on be making a tray full of subs to give to the kids when the food festival is supposedly to have been ruined anyways. Where are they going to go on, and when are they? Who are they going to sell these subs to? But I guess it's all just about giving one of them to Kaplan, and he accidentally is to realize that he had stumbled upon one of them that is to be a little bit too hot, and he desperately asks for water because it's too hot, and then he splashes himself in the face, his wig falls over, and he goes on like, wow, that was a little hot, but not bad. And that's the end joke of this episode. But anyways, so Jason goes on to realize that it's about that time yet again, so all the Rangers morph into their spandex counterparts. Rita goes on to tell the monster to attack, and so the monster is to jump to this rooftop to then have the Rangers go on and explain to him that the feast is over. So Pudgy Pig goes on and jumps down and starts to really do the reverse. Like, you guys remember the whole story of the big bad wolf all huffing and all puffing and blow your little house down? It seems that Pudgy Pig is to go on and instead of blowing, he is to be really sucking. He is to be sucking so much that it becomes magnetizing for Trini and Kimberly's weapons to go inside Pudgy Pig's mouth, and eventually, shortly thereafter that, it seems that Billy is going to go on and seemingly get magnetized to also Pudgy Pig, as Billy goes on and tries to use his power lance against the Pudgy Pig to eventually have the Pudgy Pig figure out a way to start eating Billy's power lance. And then almost it looks like he was to almost eat Billy's arm, but Billy kind of rips it out and then gets out of there. So Zach comes in with the battle axe, and as the Pudgy Pig uses both of its hands to kind of block the blow, immediately goes on and devours the battle axe. Recently, I went on to Temu, and I started to see that there was probably like copies of certain Power Ranger weapons, and it was actually kind of cool that I got on and saw like a battle axe that was kind of in there. But like also there was times where I went on and I just recently bought like a shirt there, and come to find that it shipped me some random item that wasn't the thing I wanted. So I was like, oh, this is bullshit. So yeah, um, like I would love to be able to say like 9 out of 10 times that I got the item that I wanted, but there is that to be that just one time where I ended up getting something completely different. I'm like, somebody tried to stiff me with this. Well, F that. Uh, so yeah, like it's great to just be like, man, cool, I can really get this item, but also it's just like, man, I don't know if I could trust that this is an actual thing. But either way, I'm sure it's like a copy, replica, whatever. Anyways, but like it would just be so cool to get this item. Because I'm finding a lot of cool stuff in Temu. I keep finding stuff that are like cool. I can use this as a thumbnail and all these kind of cool things. So it's really great. Hopefully someday I'll get enough Temu credit money to be able to kind of get anything that I want. But until that time comes, like I seem to be able to keep getting these things that I really do want. So I'm very happy. So, but hopefully maybe someday I'll be able to get a battle axe, which would be a really cool item if I ever get it. So, but I know I'll be focusing on probably so many other things. I did get a Stormbreaker though, so I could be happy about that. So, uh, so now that the Pudgy Pig has gone on to devour a number of Power Ranger weapons, even to the point where when Jason is facing off with the Pudgy Pig, his power sword goes flying into the air, and then Pudgy Pig eats it. Rita and Finster are so happy about the success of Pudgy Pig, and Finster is like, well, yes, like, I've invented the best monster ever. I can't wait till he defeats the Power Rangers for good. Yeah, I'm finally going on. I'm doing some of the voices because I always wanted to do that in the original ones, and I always thought it would be funny. Of course, we have the Goldar key phrase of silence. I honestly wish I would go on and do the voices more, but I'm just like, I've done it so many times in so many different iterations. I'm sure a lot of people probably just find it like stupid at this point for me to go on and do these, but I find it fun. But anyways, so here's where we go on and we have the Pudgy Pig that uses its snout of energy blast to hit the Rangers to where all of a sudden they're doing this weird spiraling, and they all of a sudden appear in some grassy area to have been defeated by the Pudgy Pig and are now to go on and be called by Zordon, explaining that the pig had put them through some vortex, and the Pudgy Pig is now to have made its way to the youth center to wreaking havoc on the food festival. So, as the Pudgy Pig is going on and thrusting its way through all of the festival food, he goes on and bumps into Bulk and Skull, and at first, Skull goes on and kind of mocks the pig, like, eh, but then all of a sudden, as the pig goes on and is to be more intimidating, Bulk and Skull are to run off in fear. So, all of a sudden, Pudgy Pig goes on and notices this hot area, and sees these peppers, looks at it, and throws it off to the side, and then continues on its rampage. But as the Rangers go on and make their way to the youth center, the Pudgy Pig engulfs in flame and disappears. Zach goes on and does say that Mr. Kaplan will flip his wig about the chaos and destruction that has happened at this food festival. But then Trini goes on and is to realize, maybe you should really look around and see one key item here. So Trini is to be the one that had gone on to figure out the monster's weakness in this episode, because of course Trini did. And again, if I'm to be a person that is to go on and say that Trini is my jam, there of course is that significant reason. On a really good Power Rangers episode, Trini is to come out on top of finding the weakness of the monster. So Trini goes on and mentions about how Pudgy Pig can't handle the hot stuff, and Billy is to say it's like, well, yeah, like this is a weakness that we can exploit later. So now we cut to the Moon Palace, and Rita is going on and asking Babu and Squat where exactly Finster is. And Finster, the more and more, is just overhearing Rita consistently asking where Finster is and for someone to get him. And Finster is just like, yeah, I'll just go over here and I'll just keep ignoring her. Because Finster is going to be like, well, yeah, like, he's gone on to put together the best monster, as he's to go on and say. So if anything, like at this point, he's kind of done his job. So he's just going to go on and just kind of hide out. And this whole scene here is honestly kind of a waste. It does nothing. But I guess they just needed just something to do in this episode that stretches more time. But anyways, we'd have the Pudgy Pig that goes on and makes its way to this food packing plant, and it's to create more chaos. So the Rangers are to go on and be at the food festival, and they get a call from Zordon explaining the Pudgy Pig is now terrorizing this food packing plant, and so the Rangers are to go on and have their plates full of extremely large amount. Like, look at Kimberly's just cake there. Holy that cake is like the size of her head. But anyways, so the Rangers all have their certain plates, and then they morph into action. So Pudgy Pig is to make its way outside of this food packing plant. There is obviously some cosmetic points where we can go on and see the hands coming out of the ends of this Pudgy Pig costume. But, like, the monster does look pretty cool. So, and it obviously is to be a standout monster that I'm sure a lot of people have grown to adore and love. So, we'd have the Rangers all calling out Pudgy Pig, like, hey, free food! So, as all the Rangers start throwing out their food, and the Pudgy Pig finds it perfectly catching within its mouth, we'd all of a sudden have Jason call it to Trini, be like, okay, you're going to be the one that puts the red hot radish into the sub and throw the sub at him. So Trini goes on and hooks the sub, and Pudgy Pig catches it. Then all of a sudden he's like, wow. And so he just barfs up everything. So all of a sudden all the food goes flying, but then also all of the weapons start flying also. And all the Rangers start catching them. So shortly thereafter, I think here's where the Rangers, start to attack Pudgy Pig with some of the weapons. But if anything, the big thing here is that they're going to go on and combine the weapons all together again to make uh, the Mega Blaster or the Mega Blaster, Mega Blaster, Power Blaster. If I can get that confused, is it the Power Sword this week, Jason, or is it the Mega Sword? um. Anyways, the Mega Blaster. So I wish they would have gone on and said that at some point of the show, but they never do. They just go on and they combine all of the weapons together. So the Rangers go on and they take Pudgy Pig out, and Trina goes on and cries out to Rita that Rita needs to go on and do better than that. Isn't Trini normally the one that says, "Yeah, Rita's up to her old tricks again," and all these kind of other goofy things? And there's gonna be a lot of times where it kind of builds up to the fact that like the Rangers will be like, "Man, like this is the worst monster yet." Man, this is the most difficult thing we've ever fought against. Like, yeah, you be talking talking right now, Rangers, but just wait till we get somewhere down the road where, man, when you get really stymied by Tommy, you guys will be hiding away in the command center and be like, "Oh, gee golly, like we had it so good, but now we're going up against a threat that's just so difficult." Woo. Anyways, so Rita's going on and obviously being upset uh with her minions. Vincent goes on and says like, "Well, hey, I told you this wasn't my best work." And so Rita goes on and tells Babu and Squat to shut up. And if anything, she goes on and calls them nitwits and all those other kind of normal phrases she goes on and says again. So we now have the Rangers making their way back to the youth center to look at all of the food festival, and all of a sudden we get a ping from the communicator, which I had completely forgot about wearing this episode. But yeah, I do have one. So we'd go on to have Alpha and Zordon that goes on to page the Rangers to go on and have Alpha deliver via teleportation the food of which that Alpha had gone to make to help out the food festival. So all of a sudden, these plates of sandwiches all appear in the Rangers' hands, and all of a sudden, Mr. Kaplan comes by. And I'd gone on to, I think, already say everything that kind of goes down in the scene. So basically, shortly after all this, after the jokes to be had, then we cut to credits. So on to the next episode. So, man, we're about an hour and a half in, and we've now gotten at least to the third episode. Isn't that great? So, hopefully we can get under, I'm hoping, at least 2 hours. So, the next episode we come to have this to be called Big Sisters. Oh no, this is this episode. I don't really like this episode. I honestly don't. So, but if anything, it's not as bad as the different drum one. But still, like, I don't really care for this episode. It's goofy. I like the fact we had the Morphin Masters in here. It's the origin of them. We get to see them way later in Cosmic Fury. So it takes forever to deliver on something that really, when you kind of look at it, they only had so few episodes of Cosmic Fury. Like, man, did Cosmic Fury have some really good storytelling and interesting visuals, but there's also some weak points of Cosmic Fury also. Eventually, 12 years from now, maybe we'll get there, but especially with how slow going this really is. So, we go into the youth center. So, Kimberly and Trini are going on and trying to figure out if anybody had spotted a young girl. And so, it seems that no one has quite seen her yet. We again have both Jason and Zach who are sparring this time around, Zach is sparring shirtless. Six pack ab, motherfucker. Yeah. So Jason is to go on and ask Kimberly Trini about, like, hey, did you lose somebody? So uh Kimberly and Trini are to go on to explain about how they volunteered to be big sisters for a day. And they're curious because if Maria hasn't shown up yet, they're wondering if she's in any kind of trouble or maybe she got lost. And the next thing we see is the hot water that says hot water shut off. Why would I have to specifically say that? So we'd have this little door that ends up getting opened and this nozzle that is to be adjusted. And all of a sudden, we see a number of people storming off from the shower room to come to find that Maria is to have been the culprit of shutting off this hot water. And then we have Kimberly and Trini like a very old sitcom episode, like Maria, and then we get the laugh track of like, yeah. So we then go on into the Moon Palace and have Rita, who is to need to figure out a way to come up with some kind of plan. And so she's calling upon Finster and Goldar. So now we cut to Tree and Kimberly, who are going on to see Maria suck on this bit of drink. And it seems that Trini and Kimberly aren't really mad at this girl, but they're kind of very confused about why Maria had played that prank. And they're curious if she just wanted attention or and they're just like, well, we're gonna go on, we're gonna be your friend no matter what, because we're gonna be your big sister, and like it's gonna be like we're Ubers and we want a 5-star review after this whole thing is all said and done. So Trini and Kimberly, to try to change things around, are like, well, hey, Maria, how about we go on this picnic? We're gonna have a lot of fun, right? On a picnic. That doesn't sound boring at all. A picnic. Yeah, that sounds cool. So, uh, Kimberly and Trini are just like, yeah, we don't really know how exactly to win over this girl, but we're gonna figure it out. So, now I cut back to the Moon Palace. So, Rita has gone to decide that she wants to go on and find these power eggs. And the power eggs will go on and make Rita strong enough to be able to take out the Power Rangers once and for all. So Rita goes on with Goldar and Babu and Squat to make their way to the location of this cave. Oh, this is the cave that I guess has the angel on it. And so Rita goes on and tries to make her way to this treasure chest, but she realizes that there's no way for her to go on and open it up. And so Rita realizes that only a child will be able to open this box up, so then she makes her way to Finster for that very specific task of kidnapping a child so they can go on and take this child to open up this special treasure chest to get these power eggs. So Finster is to go on and take the cue from Rita that she wants the chunky chicken. So Finster goes on and makes said chunky chicken, puts it through the Monster-Matic, and he appears with a large thing of scissors. Okay. Like, I guess it's the monster's weapon, but I'm just like, what's up with the scissors? So, like, I guess it's just the cosmetic of it all. So Rita goes on and immediately goes to say that the Rangers are goners, and she goes on 6 out her tongue, which is funny. So now at the now at the picnic. So I honestly think that the reason why Maria looks the way she does is just to try to match up with Sentai footage, more than likely. So Maria talks about how she is happy that Kimberly and Trini are willing to be her friend, even after the prank that she had gone on to do. And so Kimberly and Trini are going on and saying, like, well, hey, do you have any boys in your class that you think is really rad? And Maria is to go on and say, no, all my boys are dorks, yuck. And Kimberly and Trini look at one another like, yeah, she'll learn. Yeah. It's a good thing she didn't say all the boys had cooties or some goofy crap like that, right? Yeah, so all of a sudden, here's where the putties are to go on and appear, and thank God. So, as the putties go on and appear here, we'd have cues like Duck and all these other things. So, as Kimberly and Trini go on and face off against the putties, Maria is to be kidnapped and run off with. So, Trini and Kimberly are to go on and realize that they are to have lost Maria, and what are they to do now? Now, back at the Moon Palace, we'd go on to have Rita realize that it's like, okay, now that we have this kid, she'll be able to go on and open up the treasure chest to get the power eggs. And we'd have Goldar that goes on and says that he wants to personally escort the eggs, and then he's going to go on and call both Babu and Squaw to assist him. So, and then all of a sudden, Rita's like, yeah, get the eggs. It's a, I don't know if that was a weird, goofy bit of editing there, but like Rita going on and saying that is just so weird. So, like, I think there was a bit of Sentai footage there that they just had to really like match up, so Rita had to just say something there. So now we cut to the youth center. For some odd reason, Zach is to want to go on and just pound out a huge amount of ice cream. And so Ernie goes on and gets this massive bowl and calls it the Ernie Special. And Ernie's going to go on and say that Jason and Billy are going to get one also. Here goes on into a pattern of Zach going on and buying a bunch of stuff, and then he doesn't fully commit to eating it all, or whatever he orders. Like it just, there's no way he's going to go on and actually get to the point of actually downing it down, because there's going to be some crisis that happens, and cut away to that. So Trini and Kimberly run their way to the group and explain that they had been attacked by 6 putty patrollers, and that if anything, they were with a girl, Maria, who had been grabbed. So they're very confused why Rita would go on and kidnap a kid, because she's already been doing that for how many number of episodes so far now. So all of a sudden, the Rangers are to go on and pull out their communicators. All of a sudden, they realize that their communicators are weirdly not working. That neither them trying to go on and trying to call Zordon is working, or the teleportation of it is not working. So Billy is to come up with, like, well, hey, I've come up with this thing at my lab that I want to show you guys, that since we can't go on to use the communicators, then we're going to go on and eventually debut the rad bug here. So Billy goes on and brings the team to his laboratory, and they all get into the rad bug, and they all start flying off, and here's the whoa, whoa. So Billy goes on and says how this thing could reach like 3,000 miles per hour. And I'm just like, really? Because if anything, while while he drives around with it seems that they're going at a really slow pace. But whatever, I guess. Because Billy goes on to explain to the group, it's like, oh no, yeah, we're gonna go on and just kind of slowly make and drive our way up here, because yeah, like Rita will never expect that. Yeah, whatever. So like it's the whole like instead of going to the front door, they're gonna go on and go from behind or something like that, or it's like, oh no, like people would expect us to go on and use the back door, so we're gonna come right from the front. Yeah, that's it's stupid nonsense. So we'd have the red bug that it seems it crashes through the command center even though there's no rubble whatsoever. It just magically just appears inside of the command center, and then Alpha goes up like, oh, an old car in the command center. There's no alarm that goes off. Alpha doesn't go on and get a laser out or anything. Like Alpha's just like, oh, it's just some car. Like we have this thing just we have just stuff like this. It just happens all the time in the command center. No need to bring any caution to any of this. So all of a sudden, all the Power Rangers end up coming out of the rad bug. And then Alpha goes on to explain they've had a power outage for hours now, and so, but it seems that Zordon within his thing is completely fine, even though they've had some power issues. But Zordon being just in his floating head in the sky is all fine, right? Anyways, so here's where Trini goes on with the line of like, "Oh yeah, Rita's up to her old tricks again," and we have Kimberly that goes on and is like, "Yeah, a, a girl kidnapped and her name is Maria." It's like, and uh, and Zach is like, "Yeah, what is Rita up to, Zordon?" And and so Zordon goes on to explain to the team that Rita is to be after some power eggs, and for them to go on and go to the viewing globe so they can go on and see the Morphin Masters, who has gone on to brought the power eggs onto Earth and had gone on to cast the eggs into the sea, which by the end of the episode, that's where they'll head back to that. And because eventually it just falls into the water by the end of the episode, and Rita's going on and asking where exactly the power eggs are, and it's like, don't you know they fell into the water? Anyways, there's stuff that I guess wasn't really thought through in the show. So, plus also, Rita could have gone on and gotten a sea monster and gotten those power eggs at any point, right? Just, anyways, so Zoran is to explain about the whole touch of a child can go on and free these eggs for Rita to obtain. And because they're to be housed in a magical container. So Zordon explains to the Rangers that they need to go on and save the girl and then return the power eggs back to the sea. So after that, the Rangers are go on and oh, wait. So the Power Rangers are go on and make their way. Blah, blah. So then we cut to uh, the chunky chicken that has gone on to figure out a way to have this treasure chest be open, and we see the power eggs. So the rad bug is to go on and make their way to find out where the chunky chicken is to be in cave dub, and they're driving their way very slowly but surely with the rad bug, even though it can go 3,000 miles an hour. So Kimberly goes on and mentions about how, like, I hope Rita won't go on and touch a hair on that kid's head. And Zach, it says Zach on the subtitles, but it's actually Jason. It talks about saving Maria. So we have Babu that wants to go on and he wants to eat the eggs, which of course he does. And then of course we have to be reminding Squat that it's like, well, that's not what they're there for. They're not for eating, they're for protecting. So here's our Trini or Kimberly is like, why can't we just fly the car to that location? And Bill's like, oh no, we have to just fly onto we just have to drive into the ground because we'll be less visible that way. Like we don't want to go on and tip our hat to where we are. It doesn't matter anyways. So now that Rita has gotten the eggs, we now have Goldar, Babu, and Squat, and the Chunky Chicken that are now going on and making their way outside. And we have Goldar that is going on and calling out for people to kind of take their certain spots. Goldar is going on and explaining to the Chunky Chicken to kind of, hey, get ready because at some point when the Power Rangers come here, like we're gonna definitely need you. So Alpha goes on and looks at the command center through the viewing globe, and is to talk about how the Chunky Chicken has disappeared with Maria, and uh, and Sordon is telling Alpha to figure out where Maria is located. So as the Rangers are go on and spot the monstrous characters, the Rangers still in the car decide to all morph. Because heaven forbid, right, we have to go on and cut through some Sentai footage or something. So the Rangers all start to go on and start attacking, and they end up getting a combination of all of their blade blasters into a almost pyramid move to where they all combine them together to have them all kind of like hit from this, like, again, kind of like pyramid move together to do this big combination blade blaster combo. The blade blast attack goes on and takes the treasure chest full of the power eggs and blasts it back into the sea. And so as Goldar and the Chunky Chicken start to attack the Rangers, we have Rita that is going on and flying around on her bicycle, like as if this is the Jew Ranger pilot, and Rita is calling out for the monsters to try to go on and stop the Rangers. I don't know how Rita all of a sudden is to go from the moon to now she's on Earth and she's just flying around on this bicycle. This just seems like some random nonsense. What the heck is going on? So, but I guess it also plays in the Sentai footage where Rita is with Goldar while the Chunky Chicken is with Maria, who is now tied to this rope that comes from out of nowhere. Like, this rope is not tied to anything but the sky, and it makes no sense. But anyways, so into the command center, we go on to have Alpha that is to help the viewers explain that the Chunky Chicken has taken Maria to an old factory and has tied her up to this rope, and we see this through the viewing globe. So Rita is to hope that maybe the holding hostage of Maria may get her back the power eggs, but we come to find that Zordon is to contact the Power Rangers and make them aware of the situation. And so we then cut to Jason calling for the dinosaurs to get into the Megazord to then go on and use the power crystals to get into battle mode. So now, as Maria's be dangling into the air, as Rita's consistently asking the Rangers to get the power eggs, Jason refuses, and so Rita turns to the Chunky Chicken, saying to keep cutting down Maria's rope. Further and further, the rope continues to keep getting cut to the point of the Dino Megazord needing to catch Maria when she falls. Billy goes on and says to use the rad bug remotely because now Billy just has that ability to just like, oh yeah, just get this remotely. So the Dino Megazord goes on and hands Maria over to the car for it to then go on and drive off. And so shortly thereafter that, Rita has to go on and make the Chunky Chicken gigantic to face off against the Dino Megazord. So we'd have the Chunky Chicken that goes on and drop kicks the Dino Megazord, then all of a sudden cuts a blue line into the air, and as the Megazord tries to get close to the Chunky Chicken all of a sudden is to disappear through the line and eventually just appears out of nowhere and attacks the Dino Megazord again. The Dino Megazord goes on and punches Chunky Chicken, and then here's where we call in the Power Sword. We'd of course go on and have the Rangers that go on and use the Mega Attack to slice and take out the Chunky Chicken. We now all of a sudden have Rita and all of her minions back at the Moon Palace, and she is to of course go on and realize that she can't rule the Earth, and she's blaming all of her lackeys. And we have Goldar that is going on and blaming Finster, and we have Rita that is going on and calling everybody weasels. All right, so now we go on and have Ernie and the people at the youth center that are all watching this television. So they go on and they do this whole report about the Power Rangers going on and being able to beat Rita and her threat, which is honestly, it's kind of nice that the TV is to be covering this. Because at one point we had the pilot that had like a radio station. Now we go on and we have the TV doing this report of the news covering this. And at some point we'll start to get a pattern of there being TV coverage of the Power Rangers. And at some point, when there's to be these doppelgangers where the Power Rangers go bad, which is to kind of start that whole cool pattern of having these like evil versions of Power Rangers that eventually will be really fun for the show. Like there'll be news coverage of that. So, anyways, at some point they go on and they turn Maria because she's being interviewed and she's to talk about how she's to be the most popular kid in class, and so we have Ernie that goes on and asks if Kimberly can go on and get this veggie chili. And so, as Kimberly goes on and gets this big bowl of veggie chili, Ernie goes and calls out to everybody, hey, yeah, like the veggie chili that Kimberly has is all in the house. And all of a sudden, everybody starts to get close to Kimberly wanting this chili. And Kimberly starts to lose balance. All of a sudden, we see Skull, who's having a banana split. He ends up getting hit with the chili, and Kimberly apologizes, and now we cut to I Guy. We have Billy and Willie, who are in Billy's laboratory. So they go on and they get all the goggles, and all the Rangers are all going on and playing with this hologram or game that they're inside of, which is basically just a roller coaster that they're immersed in. We'd all of a sudden go on and have Kimberly that like we end up having to see a number of these people have these like weird goofy faces. It's all funny and weird. So uh Kimberly goes on and calls for, hey, please get me off this thing. Uh I'm getting dizzy, stop the game. And so as everybody takes the goggles off, because shouldn't have Kimberly just done that anyways, instead of quitting the game. Uh Jason is kind of curious who is to have been the one who had come up with this game, and it was none other than Willie. Billy goes on to explain how Willie will be entering the Junior Science Fair with this hologram game, with these goggles, this VR device, this virtual reality device. And so Rita is now at the Moon Palace, is to all of a sudden want to go on and find Finster, Babu, and Goldar. And so Rita is to come up with a plan with her minions that Willie is to have intelligence and she wants to steal it from him. And so really that is going to eventually lead Rita to make her way to Finster, like, hey, is there a monster that can do something like that? But anyways, I'm getting a little bit too quick about this. So Billy and Willie had this huge box that they're kind of carrying around, and they're trying to make their way to the Junior Science Fair, to all of a sudden be stopped by putties. All the putties start to circle around the team here, and the team takes Willie and surrounds him, and Jason starts to call for this formation, starts to call out their kicks and punches, and the Rangers all are able to beat the putties, and then Willie says how this is all a close call, and Billy is like, okay, it's time to get to the science fair. So Rita goes on and makes her way to Finster and goes on and asks about a monster that could steal intelligence, and Finster goes on and brings up a recall of them being on a alien planet that looks just like Sentai footage, where they had gone on and had I Guy who had stolen children's intelligence before. Oddly enough, the thing that we see here is just the main eye that is with this child, and this child has this bat and it's like poking the main eye. So, and then we'd have the main eye that goes on and steals this kid, and we can obviously see that it's Sentai footage. So Rita goes on and wants Finster to make I Guy and immediately send him down. So now we go to the Junior Science Fair. We'd have the judge that goes on and mentions about how if anybody is late here that they will be disqualified. He wants to come up with every single rule that he possibly can to just disqualify people because he's a dick. So, like Willie is. Anyways, so Willie and Billy go on to set up the hologame, and Willie is to kind of be nervous. He's like, I don't know how well this is we're gonna do, and Billy's like, no, like if anything, you're gonna impress the judges, and it's like if anything, hey, uh, like the two of them go on and they do this weird goofy handshake thing, and it seems that Willie is in better straits. So we have Fencer that goes on and is to present to Rita Eye Guy, and so he appears. And so uh, here's where we start to have all the Eye Guy eye jokes here. Like, it's good to see you again, uh, and all these other kind of things. So now we cut to both Bulk and Skull, who have made their way into this junior science fair that they weren't really aware of what it was. And they start talking about how this is going to be a room full of nerds. And Bulk goes on and, like, kind of like he Dracula's himself. Is like, hey, I don't want to catch any nerditis. So all of a sudden, both Bulk and Skull realize that there's one of the nerds, I guess, uh, that is to have this spraying device, and so they grab this away from him, and so Bulk turns to Skull. It's like, hey, spray something, and so Skull goes on and sprays Bulk of all people, and all of a sudden we see that Bulk's pants vanish, and he's wearing boxers. So all of a sudden, Bulk and Skull start looking around, and Bulk notices Billy and calls him the king of the nerds. And Billy tells Bulk, "Aren't you a little out of place here? Like, isn't this not really your crowd?" So goes on and also just mocks him for his IQ. And so Bulk goes on and says, "This is my IQ right here. This is all I'll need." So all of a sudden, Jason and Zach come into play here. And Jason goes on to say how Bulk is a caveman. All he needs is a club. And as both Bulk and Skull start fighting with Jason and Zach, Bulk goes on and throws his fist. Zach catches it and kind of does this weird, goofy game with him as Jason and Bulk start fighting, and then Bulk kind of trips and goes flying into Billy. Billy goes on and takes Bulk and just chucks him over his shoulder. I'm like, wow, like, I'm assuming that that whole trick there was just that Bulk was on a trampoline, and then the whole motion of it all, like, as Bulk was probably jumping on a trampoline, then Billy kind of flipped him over, and that's probably how they did that. But otherwise, I'm just kind of curious, anyways, about how that was done. Bulk goes on and drops onto the ground full of these boxes, and as Skull goes on and tries to fight also, he goes flying into Bulk. Both Bulk and Skull end up on this cart, and so Kimberly and Trini have the perfect way of getting rid of both Bulk and Skull by putting them into the funky fashion machine. And so Billy goes on and takes his cart and thrusts both Bulk and Skull into this funky fashion machine. And as the funky fashion machine opens, all of a sudden both Bulk and Skull are in drag. And so all of a sudden the judge goes on and tells Billy and Willie that their antics had gone on to make Billy disqualified. Even though Billy had nothing to do with what was going on here, Billy was acting on his own accord, but even that, Jason and Zach were actually doing most of the fighting. And yeah, so if anything, like, it really was really up to Willie whatsoever of what was to go. Yeah, so if anything, just have the show bribe the judge to have Willie win the competition and have him be undisqualified. So I think also he was just really enticed by the Hollow game and how it was better than anything else that was at that junior science fair, where you have 30 different people that all have plants that sing or put different liquid or garbage or crap in it. I don't know. Like, if anything, I was to go on and take the easiest way out when I had to do a science fair thing of like having a number of days where I just put a different kind of thing into these plants just so that I can have something to turn in. Because I'm like, yeah, like I don't know what to do with this science fair. Like I didn't really think things through. I'm like, oh man, I could have done something about a solar system or any number of things, but I went with the stupid plant thing where I just went on and I just try to do different liquids and see what happens with it. I don't know. I was just curious. So Willie is just upset and realizes that he can't do anything right. So he eventually storms off. And Billy goes on to realize that he needs to storm after Willie. So Babu and Eye Guy make their way onto the Earth's surface, and so Eye Guy goes on and unleashes its main eye out for Willie. So maybe their main eye, Willie. Maybe there's a joke there. Main vein, whatever. And it's too late now. So Willie is going on and just looking into the water and just frustrated and is to have realized how hard he's worked, how this was the best invention, and he had gotten disqualified. All of a sudden, we go on to find the main eye comes after Willie, and we have Willie that's going on to ask the main eye, like, "Hey, what do you want from me?" And so the main eye goes on to explain to Willie that he's going to take him somewhere where his genius will be appreciated. And so all of a sudden, Willie disappears and his lucky cap falls. And then all of a sudden, we have where Willie is to appear in some kind of. Uh, I'll go and I'll either call this the aereo trim or a bigger human gyroscope. Like, because that's what I Googled and I figured out what this thing is. But most of the time I think it was to be called aero trim. Uh, they go on and oftentimes you'll see this kind of thing being used in NASA to train astronauts in the yeah, I don't know if I've said this already, but yeah, like uh so so because I would go on and see it in a lot of astronaut movies. So now the Power Ranger team goes on and is calling out for Willie to try to figure out where he is. Again, like a child, we have a number of group of people that are all screaming Willie. It's funny. So as the team look around this park, because conveniently they realized where Willie was going, man, they were really easy to find that Willie. I wonder if Kimberly and Trudy have that. No, let's not go there. So all of a sudden, Billy goes on and finds Willie's lucky cap, and Willie, or so Billy goes on and realizes that there's no way that Willie would have just left this behind, and so Jason's like, well, maybe Rita has something to do with this, and so we'd find the team teleporting to the command center to see what had possibly happened to Willie because of his possible disappearance. So Zordon confirms with the team that Rita is responsible for this, and so he takes them to the viewing globe. They go on and they show through the main viewing globe that Eye Guy's main eye is to have gone on and sucked Willie inside of it, and so Rita is to wish to try to get control of Willie's powerful mind, and if anything, their goal is that they need to go on and attack Eye Guy's main eye because that is to be his weak point. So Jason goes on and tells everybody it's about that time yet again, so they all morph. This time around, we actually see them whip out the morphers, then morph, because a lot of times we'd go on and kind of cut away to it, which was it was very stupid. We even go on and have like Kimberly and Trini that goes on and says like it's morphing time, and like it just cuts like what the heck, like or they don't say it's morphing time and then they just cut away to them morphing and it just like it looks weird. um it's yeah, that's the weak point of the show. But anyways, uh so we'd have Babu and Squat together, and as the Rangers all emerge, they start attacking Eye Guy with their weapons. They all start to circle around him, and slowly but surely, the Eye Guy gets the better of them, starts to use its eye to go on and do attacks upon them. And if anything, they're trying to figure out to go to the main and attack the main eye. So they again go with the Mega Blaster to bring all the weapons combining together. And as they go on to blast away Eye Guy, all the eyes fall to the ground and they end up all re-emerging back together. They won't be able to go on and really beat this monster until they are able to attack the main eye, but also they won't be able to beat this monster until they are able to free Willie. Get the joke that I was making there? Free Willy. There's a movie called Free Willy. I guess also Free Willy, I think, is getting rebooted. So, anyways, so they go on and they do the mega blaster, and they thought they won, but the Eye Guy goes on and resurrects itself, attacks the Rangers, and all thrusts them into this little gap where they're like, "Well, hey, I thought we took it out. Like, we have to come up with a strategy to beat this thing. Like, we don't do strategy. like we just go on and we just do like a couple of different moves, and it just takes out the monster. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, we actually have to think this through and come up with a plan? When do we really do that?" So here is again where Billy has to viciously yell out for Billy, and Jason goes on to explain to Billy that Willie is still trapped. So Zordon goes on to explain that the main eye of the Eye Guy is in a separate location south of the park, and Billy needs to go on and separate from the rest of the group to go on and try to attack that main eye. So Billy goes on to tell his team, hey, yeah, go on and keep trying to get to beat up the Eye Guy while I'll go on and I'll run off and I'll get to the main eye. So as Billy runs off, there's attacks going on. And so Billy makes his way to the main eye. So what weirdly happens here is at one point, as Billy has his power lance, the main eye does go on and attack him. And you can obviously tell that there is a person that is kind of crouched behind Billy at some point here. But Billy goes on and uses the power lance, hits the main eye, and Eye Guy goes down. Rita goes on and spots what is to happen and throws her wand, and then Eye Guy becomes gigantic. So the Eye Guy goes on and uses its eye attack through its mouth to blast the Rangers, and so desperately the Rangers end up calling for their Megazord. So they get their Megazord together. And of course, they end up calling for the Mega Sword. So the main eye goes on and separates from Eye Guy. And here's where we again see Willie in the weird gyroscope, weird weird trimmer thing. And so Billy goes on in the cockpit to explain to the team that it's like, okay, guys, now's our chance. We have the main eye here. Let's go on and let's attack that. So they do. The sword goes on and slices through the main eye and eventually takes out Eye Guy to have the Power Rangers be surrounding Willie as he is now to have been freed. And so uh, the next thing we see, of course, is to have Rita go on and say that she needs aspirin because she has another headache. And so now the Rangers unmorphed or are to make their way with Billy back to the Junior Science Fair. So Willie is to go on and try to retrieve his hologram game, to come to find that both Ernie and both the judge is to be playing this hologame, and they're having a bit of fun with the roller coaster, and they're kind of waving their hands. Whoa, wow, whoa. So all of a sudden, the judge takes the headset off and goes on to realize that Billy wasn't really a part of the whole fighting that was going on before, and he had made a mistake. And if anything, he's going to make it up to Billy by not disqualifying him, but also is to give him the first place prize. So they're really just happy for Willie here, and they congratulate him. And then all of a sudden, Bulk and Skull come in with their towels and desperately want their clothes back because they're wearing nothing else but the towels. So Kimberly and Trini have something for both Bulk and Skull, and it's coming from the funky fashion machine. So Trini and Kimberly go on and obtain both Bulk and Skull's clothing to them, but it's shrunk down to toddler size or baby size or whatever. So they give their clothes back to Bulk and Skull, but there's no way, of course, for them to wear it. So it's a bit of a joke and fun and whatever to give us to the credit scene to get us out of here. So with that said, I'm going to go on and get that out of here so I can go on and realize that this is getting way past the last one of these. I probably should have been way less detailed and kind of should have ran this out quicker, but I went through this a lot slower. So, oh well, like this one is going to be like at least not 3 or 5 hours, but I'm sure a lot of people are like 2.5 hours for this. Oh well, like it is what it is. A lot of these videos at least are going to be like always going to be like either an hour or two. Like I'm going to try to figure out ways to like, and I know a lot of these movies and shows are severely complicated, but yeah, I'm hoping to try at least to get somewhere in the 2 hour mark. There's sometimes where like it's so much as 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's just like, yeah, that's because I've never reviewed some stuff before. Some of these reviews are very challenging. Like Power Rangers is very complex and has a lot of very detailed things about it. But also, it's just still like Power Rangers is the thing that I really get into it, and I really want to go on and talk about every little thing of it because I really do enjoy it. But yeah, it's also just the mistake of just like, well, I just make a really long video then. So, with that said, to make a long video longer, thank you for going on and watching this because I do like videos are doing really well right now to the point of me looking at them and being like, dang, like I'm almost getting to the point where as we speak, like I'm not exactly getting to the exact number where I was of when I left that other channel, but man, like I am making some pretty good headway. So ideally, like, this would be really great with a small number of videos coming back to here if I could really make some real progress here to uh to justify that it's like, yeah, I really am going on uh and really uh justifying coming back to the channel and having quite a bit of success. But like, really, not all these videos are to all kind of be home runs, and I still have to go on and realize that I've still selfishly made a lot of mistakes, and there's some stuff where I'm kind of selfishly doing when I obviously know that there's a good number of people that have kind of suggested for me to do certain projects that like I still haven't gotten to yet, but I will get to with in either today or probably the following time that I'm to hopefully be doing this next, or even tomorrow. I'm going to kind of scrape things together. Uh, I apologize. I got really behind on my day. There was a number of things going on, but still, like, I probably could have gone on and putting stuff up uh, because I still have things kind of waiting in the wings. But I wanted to at least get this out because I'm like, hey guys, I want to still keep this pattern of trying to get these things out. So Power Rangers is one of those. Like, I explain to people like around a week is when I want to keep getting these things out. So I'm going to keep trying to get them out. So believe me, everyone. Like, I'm trying to work as hard as I can to get all these projects out. I've also tried to even realize that I can put out older videos on here now to try and at least get some other bits of just projects out there. I'm still almost like working every day to keep doing these projects, and I'm probably getting very burnt out now. Um, but I really want to show people how much I care about, like, hey, I'm coming back to this channel and I'm going to work myself to the bone to really try and put my best foot forward when coming back here. I know that that kind of sets very much unreasonable things on me, uh, but I'm to also be a person that I probably tend to bite off more than I can chew. I'm to be a person that I just keep pushing myself until something breaks. So hopefully I'll finally realize that maybe my hard work will shine through and it'll get to the point where this was all for naught. So thank you for watching this for however long you decided to, whether it was a number of seconds or whatever, as long as I keep getting some kind of view time, as long as I keep going on and I keep uh, earning back either people's trusts or find new people. All this is to be great. So at the end of the day, I'm going to get the heck out of here. Thank you for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And so, goodbye, everybody. Bye, buddy.